Hello and welcome back to Superhero Maniac, your one-stop destination for all the superhero updates. The third episode of Marvel's Moon Knight has finally been released, and compared to the last two episodes, there are much more things to talk about in the third episode from the MCU point of view. Because the series has finally started to take a shape, in this video we shall be breaking down the entire third episode of Moon Knight scene by scene in detail, and we will also talk about the Easter eggs and hidden details. So without any further delay, let us get straight into the breakdown. The very first scene shows Layla having a chat with an elderly woman who seems to be a close relative of her family. Layla is explaining the current tragedies that are going on in her life while the woman is busy making Layla's passport for her visit to Egypt. We get some important details in the scene from the Layla's passport and the conversation between the two of them. If we have a look at her passport closely, we will see that there is a mistake in the scene. The first time when we see the women editing the passport, the date of issue reads 29th of May 2019. But the fully completed passport that we are shown about a minute later has 29th of May 2021 as the printed date of issue. Marvel rarely makes these mistakes, and it might have some implications in the series going forward, or it might be an Easter egg that we are not getting yet. However, it is perhaps just a mistake. The full name of Layla has been given as Layla Abdullah Al Fawli, and we learn from the conversation between the two that she is indeed an Egyptian and was born in Cairo. Layla gets her tremendous knack for historic artifacts from her father, who was an archaeologist. This little detail has made it even clearer that Layla is indeed the character Merlin from Marvel Comics, and only her name has been changed for the series. According to the comics, Mark Spector's wife Merlin was the daughter of an archaeologist who lost his life in the origin story of Moon Knight when Raoul Bushman tried to kill a bunch of archaeologists, and Mark Spector fatally injured himself while trying to save them. However, we know from the episode 2 that Mark Spector has been wrongly accused of the murder of those archaeologists in the MCU. And this is what Arthur Harrow was trying to tell Layla in the later part of the series when he came in at Anton Smogart's place. We might see Arthur Harrow trying to manipulate Layla using the information later in the series as well. The rooftop fight sequence between Mark Spector and the three goon-like followers of Arthur Harrow gave away some interesting details as well. Unlike the Marvel Comics, where Mark Spector is one of the best hand-to-hand combat specialists, MCU's Mark Spector is vulnerable, as we saw that he conceded a number of hits from the three goons. It also leads us to believe that there is perhaps one more alternate version of Mark Spector who is even more dangerous than himself, and we shall talk about that shortly. Also, we saw that Mark has a weakness against kids. There was one kid among the three people who he was fighting, and Mark never took a serious hit at him, but slapped him gently. Mark saw Steven in the reflection of the knife, and then we had a similar transition scene as we saw in the first episode. Mark gained consciousness to find himself in an airport-bound cab. Steven Grant clearly wants to get away from the violence, and thus he was trying to take Mark away from Egypt. However, Mark started chasing the goons again, but this time one of them tripped him and he lost his senses again. Surprisingly, when he woke up this time, he had already stabbed one of the three goons. Mark thought that Steven had done it, but he hadn't. This clearly indicates that there is one another alternate version of Mark Spector who is stronger and more dangerous than the other two versions. Just like Mark saves Steven Grant from dangers, this other version saves Mark from dangers. According to Marvel Comics, the third alternative version of Mark Spector is named Jack Lockley, and most probably he is the third version in the series as well. However, in comics, he is just a simple cab driver, and apparently his character traits have been changed for the series, just like in the case of Steven Grant, to make the show even more realistic and down to earth. After Mark was unable to extract the location of Arthur Harrow's excavation for Emmett Storm, Mark Spector asked a very important question to Khonshu. Wouldn't the gods do anything even after knowing that Arthur Harrow was trying to free Emmett? To draw the attention of Egyptian gods of Ennet, Khonshu turned broad daylight into a moonlight night. and then Mark Spector was summoned for the Enet's hearing. We got to see the avatars of 5 different godly members of Enet. They are Horus, Isis, Tefnut, Osiris, and Hathor. Mark Spector mentioned in the first episode that there are actually 9 members in the Enet, and thus 4 members were still missing. 2 of them might have been Ammit and Khonshu, who have been both banished by the Enet. According to our assumptions, one of the other members might be Vast Goddess of Wakanda, as she is very closely linked to Hathor, and it might be a perfect way to link Moon Knight into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. One of the major revelations of the hearing scene was the Easter egg that suggested that the Egyptian gods live in some sort of pocket dimension called the Overworld. This is similar to Marvel Comics' Celestial Heliopolis. The "You abandoned humanity" line by Khonshu proves that the Egyptian gods lived in secrecy for all these years without interfering in any human activities, just like the Eternals. It was surprising to see that the gods do not trust Khonshu at all, and all it took them to give him a warning was a little bit of manipulation by Arthur Harrow. This scene also proved that the other gods are equally, or in most cases, far more powerful than Khonshu, and the god of vengeance is crippled against the joint forces of other gods. An important takeaway from this scene was that Arthur Harrow came in without his stick, probably to look innocent in front of the gods. The character of Senfu was sarcophagus Mark and Lila were finding might be inspired by real-life Pharaoh's Nefru. Pharaoh's Nefru had a great love for architecture, and this might explain why Senfu was trusted with hiding Emmet's tomb. Mogot's collection included 2 pyramidal structures resembling the frontal structure of Paris Louvre Museum. The 2 structures symbolizes how men and women are counterparts of each other, and there is a beautiful correlation between this and the series because Mark is currently together with his wife Layla, and a few moments ago we saw Hathor, who was the partner of Khonshu. It is noteworthy that even when Arthur Harrow was destroying the sole evidence that they had to find out the location of Emmet's tomb, he decided not to transform into Moon Knight. And he did it only after Harrow was gone. He did it to ensure that Layla was safe. The fight sequence that followed was one of the best scenes we have seen in the series so far. As it had very little CGI, we got to know an important thing about the suit of Moon Knight from this sequence. Moon Knight's suit is basically an armor that Khonshu gifted him, and it is totally different from his suit in the comic books. In the series, apparently we cannot physically harm Moon Knight even if we insert a number of rods inside him. Well, they tried but failed. In Marvel Comics, his suit is made up of Kevlar and adamantium and doesn't have such healing powers. Fans must also know that this Anton Mogot guy goes by the name of Midnight Stealer in Marvel Comics, and he steals historical artifacts for himself. He is an arch-nemesis of Moon Knight in comic books. In the desert scene where Mark gave access of the body to the Steven so that he could solve the puzzle, we could see very well that the duo was finally starting to work together. Mark did the action while Steven did the brainy stuff. The scene where Khonshu changed the night sky with his powers is undoubtedly the best CGI scene in the series so far. It also let us understand the seriousness of the consequences that the world will have to face if Emmet is freed, as otherwise Khonshu would not have risked his own freedom just to stop Emmet from waking up, and it is thus a big deal. After the Enets caged Khonshu into a stone carving, Arthur Harrow came in to burst out about the reasons behind his mission. He said that Khonshu torment forged him, which means that when he used to be the avatar of Khonshu, the amount of mental pressure that he had to go through turned him evil, which ultimately led him to choose Emmet's path. So that was our breakdown of Moon Knight's 3rd episode. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up and share the video with your friends. Also, do not forget to subscribe Superhero Maniac and press the bell icon to never miss an update about your favorite superheroes. We will be back soon with yet another exciting video. Till then, signing off.